Welcome to the Exit Plan Show. Today's guest is John Brown. He's an author. He's also the founder of Business Enterprise Institute in Golden, Colorado. Now, stick around to the end of this episode because we're going to show you how you can subscribe to our newsletter, and you can also win a free copy of John's #1 selling book about exit planning. Thank you to Zarlingo Robb, CPAs and Business Advisors in Wheat Ridge, Colorado, for providing a location for us to film this episode. At Zarlingo Robb, they think like business owners. For more information about Zarlingo Robb, please click the link in our website show notes. Hi, I'm Norman A. Hood, financial advisor and host of the Exit Plan Show. I interview America's top advisors to help business owners like you enjoy more freedom, grow your company faster, and retire someday on your own terms. Now, today's guest is Business Enterprise Institute founder John Brown. He's from Golden, Colorado. And he's the author of How to Run Your Business So You Can Leave It in Style, which is the #1 selling book about exit planning. Now, if you want more information about John, about Business Enterprise Institute, about John's book, please visit the show notes on our website. So welcome to the show, John. Today we're going to talk about Step 3 of the exit planning process.
Thanks, Norm.
And Step 3 is about building and preserving value. So I'm going to just let you summarize that for us.
Great. So again, the first step is what do I want? The second step is what do I have? And as part of that, we determine, or the owner determines, what the gap is between current resources and the resources the business and the owner will need to have in order to exit and achieve all of their goals and objectives. So Step 3 really deals with closing that gap. It is growing what I call transferable value. It is protecting that value, the business value, from risk from creditors and others inside the business. And it's then minimizing the taxes, the income taxes, not so much during the operation of the business, although that's part of it, but the taxes upon the transfer of this now very valuable ownership interest.
Okay. You talked about minimizing taxes. How soon ahead should that start?
The time frame for minimizing taxes really depends on what needs to be done.
Okay.
So the first thing that has to happen is your exit planning advisor, which is, again, what BEI does, is we train advisors to become exit planning advisors as part of their practice. They need to assess what your business consists of now and how your assets are structured now, and then they can really start to evaluate how to minimize taxation of the company and taxation of you personally as you go through the exiting process. It can be everything from a variety of gifting. It can be changing the structure of your entity from maybe a C corporation to a subchapter S corporation. It might be considering charitable alternatives. It might be considering an employee stock ownership plan. It might be considering the idea of having you, the owner, move from your state that you live in now that is highly taxed, like California, that has the high personal income tax rate of 13%, to a state right next door, in California's case, Nevada, which has no state income tax.
Okay.
So again, it's more difficult than it sounds, but there are a variety of techniques that can substantially reduce the tax consequences of transferring your business and having to pay a tax on the value that's being transferred. And again, much of this is state law specific. Much of it depends on a particular owner's appetite for spending the time and the effort to do what's necessary to reduce taxes. But in my experience is I would at least look at what could be done between 5 and 10 years before you actually transfer ownership. Because some of these techniques, they don't take 5 years to create and implement, but they take 5 to 10 years to be fully effective from a tax standpoint.
Okay. So anything else about Step 3?
Yeah, I think there's a couple of really major things. First is, in looking at value and growing value, it's not just growing the cash flow. It's not just growing the taxable income of your company. It's growing the transferable value. And so what do I mean by that? Think of your business right now. If you walked out of your business today and never returned, they never heard from you again, what would happen to your business? You know, for most owners, they would say, my business is going to disappear. Or my business it would be a calamity for the business. It would take years to recover from me walking away from it. Or, gosh, no one would be interested in buying my business because without me, some of the customers are going to go away, or some of the management will go away. All kinds of different issues and problems will arise if I were to walk away tomorrow. Well, those same concerns you have, a third-party buyer is going to have if they were to step in and buy your company. If the company is dependent upon you, third-party buyers are unlikely to be very interested in buying your company. And yes, you could say, well, I'll stay on for a couple of years with the business. That's not going to satisfy these buyers. They want a business that they can acquire and the owner leaves with a minimal disruption to the cash flow of the company.
Okay.
And that takes ordinarily years for the owner to do a couple of things. One, change their role in the business. So the owner, if you're an owner out there listening now, you can no longer be the sun around which all the planets revolve in your company. If that's the case, then no one's going to want to buy your company. So that's really important. It's difficult to do emotionally for a lot of owners, and it's actually practically difficult to do, and it takes time. How do you do that? How do you build transferable value? Well, you go out and find the best management talent available, and you hire them so that the company doesn't need to rely upon you for management. Also, new people bring new ideas. And very often, mature businesses fail to continue to innovate because the owner has done everything he or she can do. The existing management's done everything they can do. You need to bring in new talent, new management. You need to do just a couple of other things. And we have, in exit planning, 12 value drivers we look at. But one is management that will stay when the owner leaves, and when the owner leaves, there will be minimal disruption to the operations of the company. The second is to have systems and processes within the company that are documented, whether it's marketing or HR or operations, so that if the owner leaves, it doesn't disrupt those activities. And the third, I think, really major one is to have a diversified customer base that in particular does not look to you, the owner, for the relationship with your company. They look to the company itself or to others in the company. So that creates this idea of transferable value. So the value of the company is independent of the owner. So the other thing this would allow the owner to do is to say, hey, I don't want to work as hard. I want to take 3 months off every year. And I can do that knowing the business will continue without disruption because of the value, the transferable value I've created. So that's maybe one of the most critical things in all of exit planning. And I would step back for a second and say, gosh, even if I'm not interested in leaving my business today, I sure as heck hope I'm interested in growing transferable value, because that opens up a whole world of options I don't have if everything funnels down to me. And then the last thing I'd mention very briefly, although it's critical, is to make sure that you have done what's necessary within the company to protect itself if, for example, key people leave and they take customers, or they take other employees, or they take vendor relationships, or if others within the company engage in illegal activities which we may not know about. How can we protect against that through property and casualty insurance, things like that? So that's a small area, but it can be really important, because if that happens, it can kill a business almost overnight.
Okay, good. So we covered step 3 of the exit planning process. If you want more information about John Business Enterprise Institute, you can look at the show notes on our website. When you're there, take a look at our newsletter, and subscribe, and also gives you the opportunity to win a free copy of John's #1 book about exit planning.